Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome back to Celebrities Farm. I'm your name narrator, and here on our channel, we have one mission: to travel the world, even if virtually, to find the most incredible, most luxurious, and frankly, the most unbelievable agricultural operations on the planet. We've seen it all, from gourmet coffee farms in the mountains to gigantic celebrity-owned ranches. But today, I promise you something that defies logic, something straight out of science fiction. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the desert. What do you see? I see endless dunes of golden sand, a scorching sun shining mercilessly in the sky, and heat so intense it distorts the air, creating mirages. This is the landscape of the Rub al Khali, the empty quarter of the Arabian Peninsula. It is one of the hottest, driest, and most hostile places to life on Earth. It's a place where water is the most precious resource and shade is a rare luxury. Now, in this exact setting, what is the last thing you would expect to find? A river, maybe? A forest? Impossible. How about a cow? Not just one cow, but tens of thousands of them. Yes, you heard me right. Today, our journey takes us to Saudi Arabia, near the Al-Kharj region, to a place that shouldn't exist. A place that looks like a mirage, but is as real as the milk it produces. We are talking about the Al Safi dairy farm. This isn't just a barn or a small herd. This is, recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records, the largest integrated dairy farm in the world. A dairy empire literally carved into the heart of the desert. The very idea sounds absurd. Cows, specifically Holstein cows, those classic black and white ones, are temperate climate animals. They suffer immensely from heat. Temperatures above 25 degrees Celsius, 70 centigrade, already cause heat stress, drastically reducing their milk production and affecting their health. In the Saudi desert, temperatures routinely exceed 45 or even 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees. Furthermore, milk is about 87% water. And cows drink an astronomical amount of water every single day. Where would all this water come from? How do you grow food for 50,000 cows in the middle of the sand? It is an engineering marvel, a feat of human ambition and cutting-edge technology. It is proof that with sufficient resources and planning, humanity can create an oasis of productivity where nature intended only emptiness. In the next few minutes, we are going to unlock the secrets of Al Safi. How do they keep 50,000 cows happy and cool under the desert sun? What kind of surreal technology is needed to produce millions of liters of milk per year in one of the driest places in the world? Get ready, because what you are about to see will change your perception of what is possible in modern agriculture. This is the story of the impossible farm. When I said Al Safi was the world's largest, I wasn't kidding. To understand how this mirage became a reality, we need to go back a few decades. The story of Al Safi is intrinsically linked to the vision of one man, Prince Sultan bin Mohammed bin Saud Al Kabir. In the 1970s, Saudi Arabia, fueled by its vast oil wealth, embarked on an ambitious food security project. The idea was simple in concept, but incredibly complex in execution: to make the country, so dependent on imports, self-sufficient in food production. And what is more basic than milk? But there was one obvious problem: the desert. Any agricultural expert at the time would have said it was impossible. But Prince Sultan was not just a dreamer. He was a doer with the resources to turn a bold vision into concrete. In 1977, the Al Marai Company, which means the meadow in Arabic, was founded. Al Safi Dairy Farm, as we know it, is the beating heart of this operation, which would later form a joint venture with the French giant Danone, creating Al Safi Danone. But let's focus on the scale of the farm itself, because this is where the numbers start to get surreal. We're talking about an area covering about 35 square kilometers, about 13.5 square miles. That is larger than many small cities. And in this area, they don't just house a few hundred or a few thousand cows. Al Safi Dairy Farm is home to a permanent herd of over 50,000 high-pedigree Holstein cows. 50,000! To put that in perspective, a large-scale dairy farm in the United States might have 10,000 cows. Al Safi is 5 times that size, and what do 50,000 cows do? They produce milk, a lot of milk. The farm operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The cows are milked 3 times a day in gigantic rotary milking parlors, which look like futuristic carousels for cows. Each of these parlors can handle hundreds of cows per hour. The result of this relentless efficiency? The farm produces, on average, over 1.8 million liters. That's nearly 475,000 gallons of milk. And per day, yes, per day, that equates to more than 700 million liters, 185 million gallons of milk per year. It's enough to fill nearly 300 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It is a logistical operation that rivals that of an army. The farm is a self-sufficient city. They have their own power plants, their own water treatment stations, and a fleet of hundreds of vehicles. Thousands of employees, from veterinarians and nutritionists to engineers and milking technicians, live and work on site. It is a symphony of precisely tuned logistics, where the slightest hiccup could mean disaster. When you operate at this scale, in the harshest environment on Earth, there is no margin for error. And it all started with the vision to defy the desert. But the big question remains, how do they do it? The answer lies not just in the numbers, but in the technology that makes it all possible. If part 2 was about scale, part 3 is about the science and engineering that make that scale feasible. As I mentioned, the #1 enemy in the Saudi desert is the heat. Heat that could literally kill a herd of this size. So how did Al Safi solve this problem? The answer is simple and at the same time incredibly complex. They don't try to make the cows adapt to the desert. They make the desert adapt to the cows. They have created the largest climate-controlled zone for livestock on the planet. Forget the image of cows grazing under the sun. At Al Safi, the cows live in what I can only describe as a climate-controlled 5-star resort. The barns are gigantic structures, open on the sides to allow airflow, but covered by massive roofs that block 100% of direct solar radiation. But the real magic is in the cooling system. Lined up at precise intervals are thousands of giant fans, the size of airplane engines, creating a constant, strong breeze throughout the barn. But wind alone isn't enough when the air is 45 degrees, 113 degrees. This is where the desert's air conditioning comes in, evaporative cooling. Along with the fans, there is a network of high-pressure pipes with misting nozzles. These nozzles spray an ultrafine mist of water into the air. The physics is brilliant. The hot, dry desert air eagerly absorbs this moisture. The water evaporates before it even touches the ground or the cows. And the process of evaporation, as we all know, sucks up energy. In this case, thermal energy. The result is a dramatic drop in the ambient temperature, potentially 15 or 20 degrees lower than the outside temperature. Outside, a 50 degree 1 to 22 degrees inferno. Inside the barn, a pleasant 25 degrees, 77 degrees afternoon. The cows are kept in their thermal comfort zone at all times, 24/7. They literally do not know they are in the desert. But this brings us to the second impossible problem: water. You need millions of liters of water per day for the cooling system. And the cows themselves? A single dairy cow can drink up to 150 liters, 40 gallons of water on a hot day. Multiply that by 50,000. And what about the food? Al Safi operates on a principle of total vertical integration, which means they grow most of their own feed. But how do you grow alfalfa and corn in the middle of the sand? The answer lies deep beneath the surface. The farm sits atop one of Saudi Arabia's vast fossil aquifers. These are giant underground reservoirs of water that were trapped there thousands of years ago, since the last ice age. Al Safi drills deep wells, hundreds of meters down, to extract this precious water. This water is then used for two things: the cooling systems and irrigation. If you've ever seen a satellite image of Saudi Arabia, you may have noticed perfect green circles in the middle of nowhere. Those are center pivot irrigation systems, and Al Safi has many of them. They use this fossil water to grow acres upon acres of feed right in the desert, creating their own green meadows, just as the parent company's name, Almarai, suggests. It's a bubble of life and technology, a complete artificial ecosystem, fueled by ancient water and modern engineering, all to ensure the flow of milk never stops. Understanding the cooling and the water source is crucial, but it's only half the story. What truly impresses me about Al Safi, and what made it a Guinness World Record holder, is the vertical integration. Think with me, what is a farm? It's a place that produces a raw material, right? A farmer grows corn and sells it to a feed mill. Or a rancher raises cattle and sells them to a processing plant. Or in this case, a dairy farmer sells milk to a dairy company. Except at Al Safi, they are all of those things at once. It is a complete industrial ecosystem, a milk city that controls absolutely every single step of the process. Let's start with the cow feed, the ration. We talked about the irrigation pivots, creating those green circles in the desert. There they grow alfalfa, corn for silage, and other grains. This harvest doesn't travel hundreds of miles. It's processed and stored right there, in colossal silos that look like skyscrapers lying on their side. Al Safi has what I like to call the world's largest kitchen for cows. A team of cattle nutritionists, who are basically food scientists, works full-time. They don't just give the cows grass. They formulate a total mixed ration, or TMR, a perfectly balanced computerized blend of corn silage, alfalfa hay, grains, proteins, vitamins and minerals, all adjusted for the cow's age, her stage of lactation, and of course the climate. Giant mixer trucks, which look like food-grade cement mixers, drive through the barns 24 hours a day, delivering this gourmet meal directly to the feed bunk. Then there is the animal care. When you have 50,000 cows, you can't just call the town vet. Al Safi has one of the most advanced veterinary hospitals on the planet, right there on the farm. They have surgical suites, diagnostic labs, and even dedicated maternity wards. Animal welfare within this industrial system is taken seriously, not just for ethics, but for economics. A stressed or sick cow does not produce milk. Every cow wears an electronic collar or tag. They are monitored by computer. The system knows how much each cow ate, how much she walked, her body temperature, and most importantly, how many liters of milk she gave at each milking. If a cow shows the slightest sign of being ill, she is automatically sorted by the system for a veterinary check before a human might even notice. And what happens to the milk? This is where the integration becomes brilliant. The milk leaves the cow in the rotary milking parlor and immediately enters chilled stainless steel pipelines. It is never exposed to the desert air. It is not put into a tanker truck to be taken to a factory. No, the processing and packaging plant, one of the largest in the Middle East, is attached to the farm. The milk travels literally a few hundred meters through these pipes, straight from the cow to pasteurization. In a matter of hours and sometimes minutes, that milk is turned into bottled fresh milk, yogurt, the famous Laban, cheeses and desserts. It is the shortest, most controlled production cycle imaginable. The cold chain is never broken. The milk that left the cow in the morning can, realistically, be on a family's breakfast table in Riyadh the very next morning. This is not a farm. It is a closed-loop dairy machine. After everything we've seen, it is clear that Al Safi is an engineering miracle. But every miracle comes at a price. And in the desert, that price is paid in an irreplaceable resource, water. This is where the story of Al Safi and Almarai, the parent company behind this dairy operation, becomes a fascinating yet controversial case study in sustainability under extreme conditions. As I explained, life on the farm is fueled by vast fossil aquifers, water that has been trapped beneath the earth for thousands of years. This is not water replenished annually by rain. It is a non-renewable resource. It's like extracting oil, but in this case, the liquid gold is being used to grow grass and keep cows cool. The volume of water extracted to irrigate hundreds of square kilometers of feed crops, mainly alfalfa, and to quench the thirst of 50,000 cows is astronomical. It is, without a doubt, the biggest environmental question mark regarding the long-term sustainability of this model. What happens when the aquifer runs dry? Fortunately, the company behind Al Safi is not blind to this reality. They know that the model of agriculture based on fossil water within Saudi Arabia is finite. And what they did is a long-term strategic maneuver that radically changed their business model, with the clear goal of preserving what remained of the internal water resources. Starting in 2011, Al Marai made an audacious and fundamental decision to stop growing feed within Saudi Arabia. That's right. They became the first major food company in the kingdom to commit to importing 100% of their feed needs. To secure this new food source, Al Marai invested heavily in international acquisitions. They bought large tracts of land and established their own farms in water-rich regions, such as Argentina and the southwestern United States. Think of the logistics of that. They grow the alfalfa on Al Marai farms in Patagonia or Arizona, bale it into large cubes and transport it via transoceanic ships and then by refrigerated trucks, crossing the Saudi desert just to feed the cows in Al-Kharj. It is incredibly expensive and logistically complex, but it is a price the company is willing to pay to realign its operation with the National Water Preservation Strategy and ensure the business's continuity for decades, despite the initial controversy over the use of fossil water. The migration to imported feed transformed Al Safi from a case of unsustainable water use into a model of food security driven by globalization. The farm remains standing, guaranteeing the milk supply for millions of people, but now with a greatly reduced internal water footprint. This demonstrates that even the world's largest and most challenging agricultural operation is constantly evolving, seeking a complex balance between the need to produce and the responsibility to conserve. It is a testament to the fact that the future of agriculture in extreme climates will depend ever more on international agreements and less on exhaustible local natural resources. Wow. What we have witnessed today is more than just a farm. It is a monument to humanity's ability to overcome limits. The Al Safi dairy farm is not just the world's largest dairy farm. It's living proof that necessity, combined with resources and technology, can rewrite the rules of agriculture and geography. We saw how one visionary dared to challenge the desert. We saw the surreal scale of 50,000 Holstein cows, each monitored by computers, living in a luxurious climate-controlled resort, with turbine-sized fans and giant humidifiers that create an oasis microclimate. We delved into the logistics of a self-sufficient city where milk travels directly from the milking parlor to the attached factory in minutes, ensuring the product reaches your table with maximum freshness. And most importantly, we analyzed the complex sustainability dilemma, watching how the farm evolved from a fossil water-dependent model to a global feed supply network, planting on other continents to preserve Saudi Arabia's water resources. Al Safi is not just a massive commercial success that guarantees food security for millions. It is a lesson that the future of food production in extreme climates will not be about bowing to nature, but about mastering it with innovation. The technology that keeps a cow happy in 50-degree desert heat is the same that may one day help communities grow food on Mars or in hostile urban environments. It forces us to redefine what a farm truly means. It's no longer just land and rain. It is data, engineering, and management. But the story of Al Safi leaves us with a reflection. At what cost can we truly challenge nature? It is a complex debate involving ethics, sustainability, and the very definition of food security. What we do know is that this farm will continue to be a laboratory for the future, showing the world that even in the most arid places, life and productivity can flourish. And it is with this note of awe and questioning that we reach the end of our tour of the most impossible farm on the planet. I'm your name, narrator, and I hope you enjoyed this journey as much as I did. If you were fascinated by the engineering and scale of the Al Safi dairy farm, I guarantee you will love what we have prepared for our next episode. You know what's almost as big as a 50,000 cow farm? A ranch the size of an entire country. In our next video, we're heading to another continent to discover the most gigantic ranch on the planet. A property so many square kilometers in size that its cattle get lost in it. Do not miss this epic story, and to continue discovering the universe of celebrity and world record-holding farms and ranches, I ask for your support. Leave your like on this video if Al Safi blew your mind. Subscribe to the Celebrities Farm channel and hit the notification bell to be notified about the next video. Your support helps us continue exploring these incredible places. Also, leave a comment. Do you think this farm is a miracle of science or an environmental disaster waiting to happen? I want to know your opinion. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next field.